super powerful. I learned this while I was teaching somebody. I learned while I teach. I'm not even fucking shitting you guys. This shit is crazy. Let me show you. So this is me teaching. This past weekend I was teaching somebody one of my courses, and this was the decision making lesson, right? This is one of my favorite lessons to teach people. Okay, but that's not the point. The point is I want you guys to look at this thing right over here that I drew. Okay, so I want you guys to focus on this right here, right? This right here is the flow chart of how to get better at anything, but specifically this is in the skin and meat and bones of Street Fighter. We have a challenge. It could be anything. It doesn't matter what it is. You literally can make it up. It could be execution, it can be a matchup, it could be a certain tactic, it could be your character, it can be a certain part of the engine, right? It can be a tool. Doesn't matter what the fuck it is. Okay, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter what the game is. It could be Tekken, it could be Guilty Gear, it could be Street Fighter, it could be Valorant. Does not matter. Right? But I accidentally I don't know what the fuck hit me. Some divine intervention in the middle of me explaining. So this happens a lot in my lessons. None of my lessons are ever the same because for some reason I always have some weird inspiration that happens in the middle of explaining stuff. Because every student is a different learner, right? Different style learner. So usually I'm using different like analogies and shit like that. With your challenge, it's anything that is obviously in the way of you achieving some sort of outcome, right? Some desire, whatever it is. So if you cannot objectively define your challenge, the context, if this is skewed because of emotions, frustration, anger, you never will be able to accurately assess what solutions you need to come up with in order to achieve the outcome that you want. You understand what I'm saying? So at any given point, if one of these 4 elements, or rather 3 elements, your context of a challenge, your solution, or your execution of applying the solution, if any of these are thrown off, then your outcome gets fucked up. All right, this is why luck plays a large part in anything competitive, because sometimes you will execute the wrong thing and it somehow works by accident. It's unintentional, but the opponent also fucks up at the same time, right? Like, that's just a weird part of competition. It happens. All right, so if you want to achieve an outcome, you need to define what the challenge is, but you have to understand the context of the challenge. You need to define it in an objective way, not in a subjective way where you make it bigger than what it is. Because if you do that, you're going to miss the forest for the trees. All right. So you need to understand the scope and the nature of the problem that's interrupting you and your desired outcomes and results. Okay. Once you understand the context, then you can start looking for a solution, because now you have a path, you have guidance, a direction, right? Imagine if I gave you a map. And it's a map, right? It's a map of Detroit. And I'm like, yo, get from point A to point B. You're like, okay. But the fucked up part is you're actually in Chicago. I gave you a map of Detroit, but you're in Chicago with this map. How are you supposed to be able to get from point A to point B? It's not going to work using that map, at least, right? So that's not going to work. So we need to make sure that we understand accurately what it is that we are inside of, the situation, right? So you got to make sure, like, if you're not getting the outcome you want, are you using the wrong map? Are you in the wrong city? What is your mindset? You need to quickly identify that, because if you do not, you are going to be a slave to your thoughts and your habits, because whatever you've done in your past is generating the results you have now, right? The life that you have now. So if you need to change the life you have now, you have to change the behaviors from your past that are cyclical. They come back, right? They come in cycles. So you need to identify that and get rid of it. The cause, the effects, right? So now you have a solution, and then obviously executing it. That's when you're just putting in the reps. Because remember, adults don't learn like children, where we immediately absorb things into our subconscious. We have to provide a lot of repetition in order for things to get into our subconscious, which is why adults struggle to learn, because they have obligations. So when you have repetition, it's time management, right? You need to invest more time. But as an adult, you typically don't want to invest time into something. You want the result immediately. So we get frustrated, right? We get frustrated and annoyed. But you have to continuously invest time into the craft so you can get the execution to consistently get the outcomes that you desire. You understand what I'm saying? So when you guys look at me and I DP, my DPs aren't because I was born like a fucking machine. Yo, I was in training mode. Imagine the way I stream, I was doing those type of hours just DPing. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's weird, but that's what I did. And now look at my outcome. You can't jump at me. It just doesn't work. And you can do that with anything. You want to be strong at something, you got to put in that type of time. But you have to, again, understand the challenge. Why do you struggle to DP, right? When you define it the contextual accuracy of it's going to determine what solutions you can actually see. Because now you'll be in the right city. Now you're actually in Detroit with the Detroit map. Now you're like, oh, okay. Now I just got to execute and go from point A to point B. Boom. I can't stress this. If you have a hard time learning, I'm not even saying this just like in that scenario, but even with like playing, when 6 comes out, use this. Play until you find a challenge, write the challenge down, define the challenge contextually, try to come up with solutions. Once you figure out a consistent solution, do repetition. Do it over and over and over again. And then guess what? Eventually, you get the outcome you want more times than not.